we have this project which is where students are going to build a dichotomous key where they classify something called fishing lures, and they are given 10 fishing lures, and their job is to work out a method where somebody else can take their activity and find the name for each of those lures. And so the students do this by writing down characteristics about those fishing lures, and then they use those characteristics to break them down into smaller groupings. And from those smaller groupings, they build something called a dichotomous key, which is a list of questions that will lead somebody to finding the species names. So you're going to build a list of questions that separate all these guys out, and then you're going to name them all, and they've got to find your names. So when the students have their lures, one of the things that they're trying to figure out is what descriptive words they can use. And this is really challenging because obviously 7th grade vocabulary is very different to an adult vocabulary. And so they're trying to find words that help them pick apart differences between very similar fishing lures. All right, so things like length, color, shape, you know, all of these things. So being a teacher, I like everything organized when the students are doing it, especially as a scientist. I like clear, defined instructions, do this, then do this, then do this. And the early years that I did the lures activity, the students were told exactly, this is what you do now, then you do this, then you do this. And they came in and checked in with me, and it was smooth. And the problem with that is that it's all my direction. And so although it's smoother from my point of view, the learning process is very much controlled by the teacher. And so over the last couple of years, I've allowed the students to make more mistakes. I've pulled away on giving them quite such detailed instructions, and it's a lot messier. There's a lot more frustration, there's a lot more confusion, and you can give them small pointers, but if you give them too much, they just keep coming back to you for more and more and more. Although it takes longer, although it's more frustrating as a teacher to see them spin their wheels, once they get there, they have learned so much more about the process that what they've gotten out of the lab is far more than just an answer. This is what we call grit. This is what we call, you know, determination, what we call, you know, pluck, whatever you want to call it. This is learning, and they have to understand that learning is not smooth. It's not pretty all the time.
Do I write the question?
No, record your characteristics first. Science is all about following a plan, and so we call that plan in science the scientific method. And the idea behind the scientific method is that you have a problem you have to solve. And the first thing you do is you sit down and think, how do I approach this problem to solve it? And you build a plan, and then you put the plan into action and actually do the activity or the lab or approach the problem the way you've set out. And then you have a look at what you achieved. And oftentimes in science, what you achieve first time is nowhere near what you want. And so the idea is you go back, and oftentimes you may have to go around this process more than a couple of times before you get the hang of what you're trying to do. But once you know the correct way of doing it, because you're the person that has reworked it multiple times, you fully understand everything that's going on. And so there's this comprehensive understanding that is achieved at the end of how to do this again. And so you've learned, you've gone through a process of teaching yourself how to learn and applying it. And so this isn't just in science, this is in education in general, is that you have to figure out a way that works for yourself to solve problems. And once you figure out how to study, when you apply that kind of method to all of these other areas in your education, you start to learn how you learn. And I see that a lot in this activity. And I see kids get frustrated a lot by this activity, but I see a lot of growth and development in character at approaching problems.